I'm gonna be nice.
Oh, thank goodness.
I love the series. It was so strange. I didn't know what to expect when I first saw the posters. I actually thought it was like an alien show, and then it just became this like beautiful experience. It's unlike anything I'd ever seen before. I have to thank you for that.
That's really nice to hear. Thank you for saying so.
And because you had such like great established talent. You've got Scott Wilson, you've got Jason Isaacs, you've got all these amazing people, and then you also let them share with all these like fresh faces that we hadn't seen before. And it was just such a beautiful mix of, you know, old and new, and then just the idea of the show. I was trying to explain it to the photographers, and they're like, "What?"
It's very hard to explain. I mean, even when we were trying to pitch it back in the day, it was like, it was hard. It's hard to condense into a log line.
Yeah. It kind of has to be seen to be explained.
I think so. I think it's why it requires 8 hours to tell itself. If you could explain it in any less time, then you wouldn't need 8 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I chatted with Nico the other day, and I was just like, oh, because I had met him before the show had premiered, and then after the show had premiered, I was like, Nico, oh my God. And then he's like, well, season 2 is going to blow season 1 out of the water. I know you can't talk about anything about season 2, but just, I have to say how amazing season 1 was. And can you tell me, like, how you came up with the idea and anything that you can?
Well, you know, I think Zal and I got really interested in the idea of doing a long format mind bender. And we'd spent a good year and a half before we even wrote the first chapter kind of designing the labyrinth of that mind bender and what would be at its center if we ever arrived there. And then we started writing from there, and it took a while to sort of dig the story out, but it's a bit like writing the novel and then adapting the novel in the same amount of time. That's sort of what it has felt like.
Oh yeah, because it's such an original concept, and then all of your works are very much like, you're almost your own subcategory in Netflix, just like Brit Marling, like mess with your brain movies.
So I didn't know that, but that's nice. That's interesting to hear. I mean, it's a lot of my favorite stories are happening right now on Netflix, and I think it's because as a company they're really willing to take risks and try new far out things and trust that the audience is at this point really well educated in story. We all consume a lot of story, and so we want to be challenged and we want to see something we haven't seen before, and Netflix is willing to take those kinds of risks, which I think is really exciting.
And it's phenomenal with just like the shows that they've got on display here, but just I'm so like I've chills even just while I was thinking, like doing my research for today. I was like, I can't wait to talk to Brit. But where did the idea for the dance come from?
You know, from the earliest days of talking about this show, one of the things we were sort of batting around was this idea of violence being uniquely cinematic, and that's sort of why you see it so often in moving images, is because violence when it's written is provocative, but it's nothing like when you see it on screen and it sort of, you surrender your senses to it. And I think we started thinking about, like, well, is there a kind of antidote to violence, or is there a cinematic equivalent that is positive, or and we just started thinking about movement and the idea of using movement instead of violence, or using them as a kind of language to talk back and forth to each other. And so, yeah, that was there from the very beginning, oddly. And then we were just kind of digging that story out, I guess.
That's awesome. I can't wait for season 2.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Really nice to meet you. Thanks.